The following video is a recording from our first Artist Feedback AMA session featuring only wildlife photography. This session was held in the MetaJungle Discord on April 1st and hosted by Jason O'Rourke and Dan Hawk. In this session, they provide a review and feedback of 10 different collections. We want to thank Jason and Dan for their time in providing this session for the MetaJungle community. We hope you find it useful, and with that, let's get into it.
So let's dive in. So I've got our first collection pulled up here. The artist for this one is, and I'm going to try to see if I can get his name right here.
In the room.
Doesn't have his name. Swaroop Singharoy. Swaroop. Okay, so this one's called Hymns of the Wild, and what we're looking at here is obviously a wildlife collection because we're dealing with wildlife today. And what I'd like to do is just kick off and read the description first. It's kind of a long one, so I'm just going to go through there and give that overview. So Mother Nature, her elements, and her wonders have always been the biggest source of inspiration for me when it comes to photography and art. I believe photography is one of those most powerful mediums of communication that can break the disconnect between humans and nature. The power of art seamlessly creates a bridge to connect the viewer's soul with that of the artist. And this is exactly how photography can raise a sense of consciousness among us about the importance of wildlife and conservation. I've been exploring the wilderness of India for more than a decade now, and this specially curated collection has some of my most favorite images that were made during this time. Every photograph you see here has a very precious memory encapsulated in it, a memory that talks about the trees, the rivers, the forest, and her denizens that connect us all in the circle of life. Artist Swaroop Singharoy, and it says these are one-of-one editions. So I would love to, Jason, do you want to just kick this one off and start walking us through what you're seeing here and how you feel about this?
Yeah, I mean, so obviously looking at some of the portrait detail here, Witness to a Modern World, Conqueror, these are some really nice sharp images. And when you click into each of the images, the descriptions are all there. These are nice long descriptions. So there's a lot of information about each image. You've got the licensing down there, which allows the free use and advertise and display groups, all of that, and then you get the about the artist tied to each image. So really, I think the descriptions here are really solid. This gives you a good. This is like everything you want to see on an NFT.
Yeah, looks really great as well. I just clicked on this one of the monkey, the baby monkey, and zoomed in just because I think it's kind of important to. We talked about this a little bit. To make sure that your images do have the right kind of resolution for, this sort of modern digital world. So a couple things that I think are fairly important is to just look at the overall collection. Obviously, we're talking wildlife here. So when Jason and I reviewed this one, we both had some thoughts. We both felt like there were some really strong pieces here. Obviously, this Witness to a Modern World is fantastic. I think this one
Safest
here,
Place on Earth, Mountains in Love. Those two are also really good. It's funny. It shakes out a little different order on my screen than I see it on your screen.
Let's do this. Let's do this just so we can be on the same page. I'm gonna go oldest.
Yeah.
There. Yeah.
So for me, I think the interesting thing was there were a couple images that didn't quite fit. Yeah, when you shake that, oh, that's funny. It still didn't.
Tell me which one you're thinking.
So Leap of Grandeur. I mean, I know when you zoom in, there's a peacock.
Peacock.
Yeah, sorry for a second, I blanked on what the bird was. There's a peacock in there, but to me, this is such a wide frame of the trees, and the other shot that's sort of similar to that is the Undertaker's Dusk. I mean, the silhouette is a really powerful image. I think these are both good images, but compared to the other wildlife images, I didn't quite feel like they fit here. And the third one is that alert and vigilant. So again, you've got the deer, but for me, the focus is the scene and not the animal. And again, it's fine. It's a beautiful color to that image, but it didn't necessarily fit with the rest of this collection. This is the one we looked at Instagram, right?
Yeah, so let's do that. And I'll kind of give a little bit of feedback here before we do that. So Jason and I both looked at this, and look at this. This mountains in love. This is fantastic. You got these elephants.
Mhm.
This one elephant sticking up. You got this cool bird flying in here. You've got this really great, reptilian eye. This baby. I mean, there's some really great photos here, and kind of our gut was, let's go look at what Sorup does outside of the collection. So we pulled up his Instagram account, and I dare to say there are a lot stronger images in this place that are really amazing. Like, look at this. This is fantastic. Look at this
Yeah,
tiger.
I think there's an easy 10 image black and white collection to put together from the Instagram too.
Yeah, yeah. Look at this. I mean, the tonality and the detail in this are really gorgeous. And there's also some really unique moments here. Like, look at this for talking about black and white collection.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I think some of our feedback is that this collection, it just feels like these are not the strongest wildlife images that you have. And we looked to make sure that there wasn't some other collection where you've already used a bunch of these, but there aren't. And so my gut is that you're not. This is one of those ones where curating your work. I think there are some stronger images here. I think you could really lean into um,
Mm.
some some ideas
Yeah, look
of
at that.
that's almost like an abstract, right?
Yeah.
And I really think that you could look at almost all a series of wildlife abstracts, like this one here, these elephant shots, these super close-ups of the tiger. Like there's just a bunch of really amazing work here. And
So yeah,
my feedback would be you need to recurate. Um, and you could replace a few of those that are not quite as strong with some of these other images that are stronger.
right. But so even so to me, I see other collections that he can build on from there. But for
Right.
me, if we come back to the hymns of the wild, to me, I think there are five really strong images that are already here. I suppose if you wanted to lean into that abstract piece, you could pull that conqueror out, but I would keep the conqueror of the black waters, so witness to a modern world, the leaves of a venomous cactus, mountains in love, and safest place on earth. Those are the five that I would start with. Even the Paro's compassion. When you look at that Instagram, there's another really nice color close up of a
Right.
tiger. I might lean that direction instead of this image. You already grabbed one of the bird images. There's a couple bird images. Yeah, that one right there.
This one, the black and
And
white.
actually, that rhino's another. No, no, no. That's the black and white. Scroll down just a little bit. There's a black. Yeah, the rhino's one I would look at, but if you
This one
scroll
here.
down right there, yeah. So to me, I think that one's a stronger image to look at for the tiger.
Look at
Ooh,
that.
wow! Look at that. Yeah.
This
Geez, I
is
didn't even
this is cool
scroll
too.
right on that one. I just was looking at the first one. So yeah, I mean, I definitely think the images are there. So this whole collection right now is 10. So I would look at five other images that sort of complement that group of five. And if you wanted to look at the abstract with the gator teeth, you could potentially replace the Conqueror of the Black Waters as well.
Yeah. 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 I feel the same way. This, like, if I were going to do it, I'd say this one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I would probably pull this one, this one, this one, and this one, and I'd replace them with stronger
Right.
images.
And I'd consider pulling that tiger for that tiger that
Yeah,
we just
I
put up on
agree.
Instagram.
And part of it is because these are all, none of these are full body shots, right? These are all kind of cropped in.
They're all much tighter on the animal. So
Yeah,
for me, that
yeah,
was the animals the focus in all of those, and the other four or five. I mean, even the eye, the animal is the focus, but the
yeah,
others, the whole scene seems to be the focus.
yeah. Well, I think this is one of the things we're going to see a little bit more across the stuff we're looking at today. is that if you think about wildlife, everybody takes, a lot of people take pictures of the whole animal, right?
Mhm.
Because you can't get close to it, or you want to show it, kind of in its environment. But there's some
Not
different,
safe to get close.
right? But there's also a different intimacy when you get super
Mhm.
close to an animal, even if it's you're using a super long lens. Like this is so much more meaningful in terms of connecting with wildlife.
I love that shot.
Yeah, it's really good. So the questions that the artist asked was, um, they don't really have anything to do with this particular collection, but he asked how to mint and present a single standalone image that doesn't go by any collection or series. And then should I mint a collection before the previous one has a sale, or wait for a few sales before minting a second collection? Um, and he also was curious about selection, quality, and pricing. I think we've already kind of gone over selection and curation, and quality. Pricing, I think I'm going to say this right at the top of the show here. Everybody keeps asking about pricing, and I know I sound like a broken record. I really believe that if you are not wildly outside of the normal scope of things, that you're going to be fine. That pricing at 0.1 or 0.15 or in that range, anywhere up to like 0.2. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't make it's negligible. These things don't make a big difference. It's getting your art in front of people that matters. Now, if you price these all
I
at point
agree.
one or all at 1 ETH, then you might find that maybe that's not priced right, because you don't have the collection history, the sales history to support that. Um, or if you price them at 0.05, that might be too low. Like you've got some priced at 0.0, at 0.09, at point, these might be those might be a little lower priced than they should be. That's up to you though, as an artist. Um, Jason, what do you think about, so his questions, what about minting single standalone pieces?
Well, I mean, so you and I just looked through that Instagram, and I'll tell you, I'll be watching for that black and white set because I think he's
Yeah.
got easy 10 black and white images that he could put a collection together too. But to
Yep.
me, I think, and you know my philosophy on this, I've got a couple collections of some of my wildlife shots out, the Monk Seal Monday and the Geckos in Paradise. But then I do kind of ones with my wave shots. They're not really in a collection.
Right.
I've got that lava hose piece. So for me, um, you have to be able to define what's different between the collection pieces. And, it can be as simple as, my monk seals are all one category. I'm guessing from his Instagram, most of his work is wildlife. So it's going to need to be something that sets that image apart from
Yeah.
the other collections. And to me, it's going to be at a higher price point. I think that's the
Right.
other piece. Me, the collection pieces my collections run from 0.15 up to 0.5.
Yeah.
And then the standalone ones, I'm generally pricing over an ETH.
You think you got to figure out
So
where you're going to put them too. Like that's
right.
one of the things that's interesting is that, Foundation doesn't have a place to put one of one, so you still have to make a collection contract there, and then you can put them
Yeah, I
inside of.
mean, I just so again, what I did there because I was putting my waves over on Foundation when it was the OG Foundation collection, however
Right.
you want to call that. So when they took that away from me, one of the first people that collected from me from there, I said, "Do you want me to get?" I still had time to slip it into that collection, or do you want me to put it? And I just created a Jason O'Rourke photography collection, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a collection by Foundation's definition, but I didn't set a cap on how many images are going to be in that
Right.
group, and I'm just continuing to add to it as I go. So to me, that's how I tweaked the new Foundation to give myself the 1-1 option that it used to have. And then obviously, there's other platforms out there from Maker's Place to super rare. Sloika is all collections, right? So that
Right.
doesn't really give you a 1-1.
Right.
And then I think you've got the experience with Manifold, and I mean
Yeah.
that's to
Yeah.
me
I've
that's the
created a
best
series.
solution for 1-1s.
Yeah, I created a series on Manifold, and then it shows up on OpenSea as a collection, and you have to kind of specifically say that it's not a collection. This is a series of one, of single images. So
But I mean, similar to how I did a Jason O'Rourke photography, yours is Dan Hawk's, manifold, right? So
yeah.
um,
So that's the thought. I like the idea of the single images, and I'm doing it myself. I haven't had a lot of success selling them, but I think that there's a place for that, and certainly people buying stuff on Foundation and Super Rare would indicate that that is a thing. So don't be afraid of it. Okay, in the interest of time, why don't we move on to the next one? I've got Big Cat Origins is our next one. And our artist on this one is this Subu? I think so. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, this is Travels with Subu, and I'll just kind of dig in a little bit here. Big cats have graced this planet for millions of years. It is said that the oldest fossil of them dates more than 10 million years ago. Known to have shared a common ancestor, these wonderful creatures have evolved and adapted spectacularly based on the region, vegetation, and circumstances. I've always been curious of how these majestic cats are so similar yet very different. Sharing my personal observation of behavior, a few big cats that I've seen up close and personal across India and Africa throughout this collection. Roadmap, early access to my previous collectors. Every new collector will have early access to all my collections going forward. Airdrop of one edition of the rarest big cat that I photographed to collectors. This will only be after collector has no issue with the edition being in his or her gallery. And then you've got your artist, collection size of 8, edition, all are one of ones, and all of them have unlockables. So let's go ahead and start taking a look through here. I'm going to go ahead and organize them old to new. So we've got 8, so they fit on this little screen here nicely. I'm just going to start clicking through and just taking a look at them. First of all, I mean, this one draws my eye right off the bat. This is really nice and sharp, great color, just a really, really exceptional photo. I agree, Mike. Mike Schmidt just said, Pardus male is the hero image. That's for sure. You still there, Jason? We may have lost Jason. I'm not hearing him. So, and his screen looks, or his name in the chat looks a little bit, a little quiet. Okay, so I'll go ahead and dig in. Jason, say something once you get back in here. And everybody else can hear me, I take it?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Making sure I'm not the one who got rugged. So basically, I think kind of what we were looking at here is there's for sure a consistent vibe here, right? We have a definite collection. Jason says he's here. His mic just turned off, so he'll get back in a minute. I'll let you just troubleshoot that thing. Yeah, there we go. Drop out and come back in. So when we looked at this one, I think the things that we were thinking is that this image is really strong, and it's part of kind of what I said with the last artist, is that these up and close images can sometimes feel more intimate. They sometimes feel a little more storytelling. When I look at these, there's a couple things I'm seeing here. I'll click on this one. So tigress female. When I look through this one, what I'm seeing is that this image, when I pull it up, it's strong. I'm waiting for it to pull up here in OpenSea. Come on.
Just, can you hear me, Dan?
Can't hear you. Yeah, you're back.
All right. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's okay. So when I was just saying that we looked at that up close Pardus male, which is kind of the has the dark background. It's a different crop, a little different closer up image. But then I looked at this one, and while it works as a full, when you look at this image and you kind of get up close, it doesn't really work as well. It doesn't grab my attention as a thumbnail in the overall collection. And my gut is, I think some of these are there's a lot of wide angle and a lot of dead space in a few of these that just say like this one really works because the whole frame is, you've got a good balance throughout the frame. I think this one as well. But I think some of these, like this one here, there's just too much going on over here on this side that's just kind of empty space. And I really think that you could tighten these up and make these more intimate portraits of these animals by eliminating a little bit of this. Like I can tell it's a road because it's super wide, but I don't think that this is the strongest crop for this image. Whereas I think
definitely tighten.
Yeah, I think it
Those
works a
two.
little better for this one maybe, but like if I were gonna, I'll just click on it, and if I were gonna, kind of think about how I would do this one, I think that, sort of, kind of sort of doing this sort of thing might work better. Like it could work as maybe as a
Doesn't
square.
even tighten that much, but it's just a little bit to pull the focus in.
Yeah, like this doesn't belong in the image, right?
Right.
This is all dead space over here. The tree is decent back here. It frames the tiger really nicely.
Yeah.
But I think just doing some basic cropping, I think will tighten these up a lot. This one is interesting because a tighter crop could really make this one strong because of the way it sits right now. There's just way too much of this tree on this side, and you've got all this.
And
the blurry stuff.
The flowers in the foreground sort of almost detract from. Yeah.
Look at that right there.
Yeah. Right.
And so and look, it's sharp. Like, this is a really great photo. This works so well. And one of the things that's nice here is look at how well the detail of the flowers works when you zoom in. And you can tell these are the same kind of flowers. So I think tightening up your crops is going to make these this is a much stronger set. Jason, I've just been talking because you were gone, but give me some feedback. What do you think? What are you thinking?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the tiger's female, that one's one that you can tighten in. I don't think that needs an edit. I think there's let's see, there's 6 of these that I wouldn't touch. The echinos, oh man, I can't pronounce these things. The 2 cheetah, right? Those are cheetahs.
Yeah, those are cheetahs.
One with the 2 cubs behind it, I wouldn't touch those. The 2 lions in the road, walking the male and the female, those both look solid. So yeah, the tigress female, I would probably tighten that crop up. The pardus female, that's the other one I would tighten up. And the tigress male, just a little bit, like you said, framing. When you look at that tight, that's not the button I wanted. When you look at that tight, the left edge, like you said, like I'm always trying to clean up the little distractions, and to me, that left edge branches just sort of distract from the overall image.
Exactly. Yeah. So the questions that he had asked, is the pricing apt for the current market?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think so. I mean, no question about pricing. And then in terms of, are the pictures cohesive enough? Yes. And they resonate with the rest of yeah, this is a good collection. These are great images.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if anything, I mean, I see the one sold for 0.2. Yeah, I think 0.1 is pretty aggressive pricing for the quality of this work.
Yeah, exactly. And by aggressive, he means it's priced super low. Like, not super low, but
exactly.
Probably half.
I would probably have these higher.
Yeah, agreed. Any other feedback for him?
Nope, I don't think so.
Okay, good. Well, let's move on. Our next one, let me just see. We had 2 that were kind of similar. I didn't want to put them next to each other. Oh yeah, so let's look at Stubborn as a Donkey. Okay, so I think we both had pretty similar thoughts on this collection. I'm gonna start a bit. This is a really long description, but I'll read through it quickly because I think that the context does make a difference. But I also think we're gonna have some feedback about the collection in general. So this collection of 6 photos tells the story of the stubbornness between the donkey and the gypsy boy. I was just hoping to take a sunset photo while walking in a rural village of Suloglu. Suddenly, a donkey and a gypsy boy entered my frame. The donkey suddenly stopped and the boy got off the donkey. He wanted to pull his donkey by the rope and take it home. No matter what the gypsy boy did, the donkey wouldn't budge. The stubbornness lasted about 10 minutes. At the end of the period, of course, The stubbornness of the human being won. The gypsy boy was very happy. He mounted his donkey and posed for victory. 2 more friends joined them, a small dog and a donkey. And they went on their way. As the gypsy boy passed in front of me, he gave his last pose and left. License includes editorial and commercial rights detailed in the description of each NFT. See each photo for information. So I'm going to click on the images. I think it's important to look at them.
Dan, just before you move on, my English major is
of course,
all over this description. So I really think you need to go back through and edit. There's places where the space is before the period and not after. Commas are tied. So this one, there's a couple where there's an extra period. So really want to go through and clean up that edit. Yeah,
I agree. So I pulled up one of the individual images here. We have our license. I'll say this: you've got information, you've got license, you've got information about the file, you've got a description, all of that stuff. And this is, I think, maybe the first one I've seen in the last few weeks where the license has been added to the properties. And I've said it before, so I'm expecting you're going to start. You guys are going to start doing it. Start putting your license as a property. Okay, everybody do that. That is part of the metadata. It will be parsed by marketplaces going forward.
Cool.
Okay, so Jason, we both had some thoughts about what we're looking at here, and I'll go ahead and just kind of say what both of us are thinking. I don't know that there's enough there's enough difference between these photos to make them stand alone. I understand that these are
to be in the same collection. So
right.
Yeah, 3, 4, and 6 are. I mean, to me, you'd have to pick one because they're just so similar. That it's hard to see a real difference between those 3 images. I mean, I do see it, and I hear the story that he's trying to tell there. It feels like just one pulling the rope is necessary.
Yeah. So this is, I guess this is the part where we have to kind of give some criticism here that I don't feel like while there is a theme here, the problem is that all of the images just look way too similar. And I understand, hey, it's silhouetted, that's great, but I feel like this, if I was a collector that was looking at this and considering it, I don't know that this fits. I don't know that this fits. I don't know that this fits. And I think these are all the same. So ultimately, for me, I would probably choose one of these images and do it and it would just be a standalone image, because I don't. Right. Sometimes an image tells a story. In the idea of this collection, you'd hope that the collection would tell a story. To me, this image tells the entire story. Just the one.
Yeah.
The donkey being stubborn and the kid pulling on the rope. To me, that is it's a strong image, and I think that if you were, I just don't know that this is enough to build a collection out of.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I was looking at number 3, but now I'm taking that closer look at number 4, and you're right. I think that one is probably the strongest one to me.
Yeah. And it's hard to give this critique. I hate telling people, hey, what you did doesn't work. And the reality is this one already sold. So I'm not saying kill the rest of them, but I'm saying, to my eye, as an artist and as somebody who does collect art occasionally, I don't buy a lot, but I do support artists when I find something I kind of have to have. My gut is I just don't know that this is strong enough to make it's not a very strong collection because the image is too similar. That's kind of my gut.
I mean, I think there'd be an opportunity to build a collection out of silhouette sunset images, but maybe not all this single story.
Yeah, I totally agree. Just trying to see if he had any questions. Yeah, he didn't really have questions. He just kind of walked through a little bit about himself. So I think that's probably about all the feedback we have here. Was there anything else you'd want to add?
Oh,
Yeah, I hate to tell people like it's not that I think that the work isn't good. It's that I just feel like these are a little too similar.
yep.
That's yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. We have the next one is the Peacock Gallery, which just makes me chuckle because it makes me think of Peanut Gallery, which is a kind of an American thing. But let's take a look at this collection, and our artist for this one is Danish, and I would love to dig in a little bit here. The description: the most beautiful bird, peacock or Indian peafowl. In this collection, I'm trying to showcase the beauty of this awesome nature's craft as much as I can. Images are shoot from the southern forest regions of India. Collections contain 10 photographs. Each one is different and versatile too. Edition 1 of 1, name of artist Danish. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Danish. MKP. Device Sony Alpha 7 Mark III with the 200 to 600G. Okay, so looking at the description, I would put that in front of somebody who can proofread and give you a little more, tighten it up, get the punctuation right. There's some extra words in there that don't really make much sense. I would also probably kill the camera information. I don't think you need that.
Yeah. That's something
So,
you can include on the image descriptions, but doesn't
exactly.
need to be the collection description.
I think the perfect place for that is in the properties if you want to add it. And I think he already has it in the properties. Come on, OpenSea.
I don't think so. I don't think there are properties.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Okay. So as we look at this one, he does have the information in the description.
Descriptions, yes.
Yeah. And our descriptions look pretty complete. We've got license information. We've got interesting information about the bird.
So the only thing with the description here is I do see that the photographer's name, but it may be worth adding a short bio to each description.
Yeah, I agree. So let's talk about the collection itself. We know what this collection's about. It's about peacocks, right? I'm going to put them in order so I can kind of piece through here. So one of the things that's interesting is that peacocks, I think, to me, right off the bat, this one stands out because it looks different than the rest. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I actually think it's interesting to see a slightly different colored peacock.
This is the female, I think.
Let's see what it says. Yep, it's female.
Yep.
And there is a reason we don't see her tail. It's because she doesn't have that big tail like the males do. So, what do you think, Jason? What's your how does this one strike you?
So I think a couple of these images are a little too similar to me, but the other thing, you just made the comment about the male's tail, and I know it's that almost overdone classic shot, but that's what's missing here.
Yeah.
Is you do have the one in the tree where you can see the length of the tail and you get dancing moments. It keeps reshuffling the order for me, but the dancing moments, you get the tail out behind it, but I almost want to see that big display tail. I do like the two that are fighting. I think that's a great action shot. So for me, it's let's see, the Blue Diamond and Towards Eternity are kind of similar, and even the Colors of Nature and the Blue Diamond have such a similar look.
Yeah.
That I'd kind of try to find. I mean, I think Splash is good. This is one where I don't mind having the bigger frame because I think it gives you a sense on the beauty from nature and dancing moments. The bigger frame gives you a sense of where the bird fits in those frames. But yeah, those three are the ones that I would try to figure out, and I definitely would like to see a shot with the tail on full display.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of my thought too. I think as much as this is a dude and this one's, this is male and a female, I think these shots are, I kind of, Like maybe they could work if it was like if they were kind of framed exactly the same because they're different colors.
Right.
But some of these, yeah, like this one here, the blue diamond, these just feel like they're a little too similar in terms of the background. And I agree with you. I want to see what I would like to see is, something of a classic head on with the big fanned out,
Yeah.
tail.
I know it's a classic shot, but if you're gonna do a Peacock Gallery, I feel like it has to be in there. I do love the
Right.
morning makeover. I am noticing that's the only title that's all caps though, so that's another little detail I would probably clean up.
Well, and let me dive in a little bit here because once again, why we've got a bunch of there's a lot of dead space at the top of this frame. And that right there would be a much stronger.
All right, so does everybody else see that screen? Because whatever you just did, I've got an exclamation point. There we go. Weird.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking
all the technical problems today.
this image could be really cool if it were just, cropped in.
A little tighter.
Yeah,
little
cut off that top part because I think this is one of the things. Look at all the detail in the leaves here and look the branch that he's on. Like that's maybe you get enough so you get the whole film, but it's cropped off at the bottom anyway. So maybe getting in here like this, you can actually see what he's doing. Maybe that's going to be our drum we keep beating on today is tighter crops. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the what he's asking. He asked about pricing, and I think we have a pretty widely varying set of prices here. 0.1, 0.15, 0.1, 0.11, 0.5.
Oh.
Yeah, and I would question that this is a better photo that's worth more than the rest of them. I don't see that.
Honestly, so blue diamond is the 0.5?
Yeah.
That's
I click on it.
Consider that to be the strongest image in here.
No. And in fact, it's once again suffers from being way too wide angle.
Yeah.
There's your shot right here. Cropped in.
Yeah. And again, that's where you have to figure out which one of those three I think you keep.
Yeah.
So if that's obviously with the price point, I'm guessing that's his favorite. But if you tighten it up, then it becomes a much stronger image.
Well, and I think that's one of those things. And this is, I'm not a wildlife photographer. Jason, you've seen my feeble attempts at shooting whales. Taking pictures of whales. I generally, I did, but I generally get wildlife photos when I get lucky and I happen to come across cool wildlife. But I'm not as much of a hunter of wildlife photos. That being said, I know that when you take these photos, oftentimes you already are cropping in because, there's limitations to long lenses. I don't think you should be afraid of it though, because ultimately how your photo communicates that animal and their environment and the story of what they're doing is super important that's the difference between a mediocre wildlife photo and one that grabs people with emotion. You got to know what's going on. You have to be able to see what's happening. You want to be able to connect with the animal's eyes or, whatever thing you're featuring and whatever you're focusing on. So the questions they had asked was about pricing and about improving the quality of the collection. I think we've kind of already addressed that. We've talked about the collection. I think there are a few here you could probably pull out and maybe replace if you've got one that has the big fan. Maybe crop in tighter on a couple of these to really show off what's going on. And think about whether you have some redundancy happening here. I think you could easily trim at least 2 of these images out and have it be just a tight set of 8. Any other thoughts?
Oh, I think that's pretty good coverage on that.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, let's move on to this one here, which is the Yellowstone's wildlife. This is Shlomo Waldman is the artist here. It's got a good headshot here, as is his bio picture here. And I'll just kind of walk through here and read this. January 2018, I went on a 10-day photo tour of Yellowstone Park. A winter walk in the park is an amazing challenge. In extreme cold and deep snow, everything must, of course, be adapted to the conditions: the clothes, the hats, and the photographic equipment. For many years, there were no wolves in Yellowstone until about 25 years ago. 14 wolves were brought here from Canada. Since then, they've been growing and evolving and have actually changed the entire ecological balance of the park. By the time the wolves returned, there were a great many Canadian elk gnawing at the green plants. The wolves brought to the park began to prey on the moose, and the moose learned that they might be preyed upon and disappeared from many areas where there were wolves. Okay, so the description is leading me to believe we should be seeing pictures of wolves and moose, most likely. But I'm seeing that that's not the case here when I get into the collection. There are wolves. There's some, looks like probably coyote here, and we've got bison, and there's one elk here. Yeah, so I see one elk, I see a few wolves, I see bison in like a couple of the shots. So I think your description is it could be, it's good, but I would be leading, it would lead me to believe I was going to be seeing more pictures of wolves, and it's a little bit less about wolves and more about overall wildlife, which is sort of what you said in your title. So Jason, let's kind of dig in. What are you seeing aside from what you said the first time we looked at it?
The first thing that stood out to me was that very first shot with the yellow Yellowstone with the big truck. To me, this is a wildlife collection. That's a cool shot to get from the tour. It's so out of place with the rest of this collection.
Yeah, I totally agree, and there's a couple reasons why. If your wolf was way up at the front and in super sharp focus with whatever piece of meat this is, and there was like the bus way off in the distance, maybe blurry, I think that might work. But right now the bus is what's in focus. Your animal's not even in focus there.
Right.
To me, this sticks out like a sore thumb inside this collection, because I don't think it's really.
When you get into the other pieces, this is a great range of wildlife.
Yeah.
You've got a couple wolves, you get the bison, the otter, the coyote. I believe those are coyote at the Banquet of Kings, the elk in the snow. So I'm just a little curious. I don't remember seeing these big landscapes when we were looking last night. They were there?
They were there, yeah. So you're talking about
the
like
Yellowstone view, which is a gorgeous shot, and sunrise, but neither one has any wildlife in there that I see.
Right.
So those two, I think these are both gorgeous shots, but I don't think they fit with the collection's theme.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of my gut too. And I'll just say it flat out. When I'm looking at these, my favorite image from the whole series is this one, Banquet of Kings. Yeah. And there's a reason why. I mean, this is obviously wildlife, right? But you've got this, what we're assuming is a coyote. Doesn't look like a wolf to me. Look at this big old raven. Like it's cool because the raven almost gives perspective to how big this, that this is not a very large animal. Pretty cool.
Yeah, although, what's interesting? I'm curious because the description doesn't say coyote. It says some of the wolves buried a piece of meat. So if this is a wolf, then that's fine. I thought it was a coyote. If it's a coyote, that probably should be clarified.
Yeah, just looking at these, we have coyotes in our neighborhood here. These are. I'm almost sure these are coyotes. Not all of them. Like these are wolves here.
Yeah, right. There are wolf shots in there, but I think that one was a coyote, and I could be wrong. And then, honestly, as much as you like that image, the river otter is a fantastic shot.
Yeah, let's look at
Um,
that.
looks like he's telling him off. No,
Yeah,
I said no pictures.
for sure. I love that it's all like super wet on the back.
hmm
Yeah.
And I like the three bison. So again, I think there are some really strong images in here. And so you've got 7 that are solid wildlife. I would be curious, not to say that 7's not a number you can work with, but I would consider trying to find one more, get that balance that 8 gets on a collection. If you've got 3 more to make it to 10, that works too.
Yeah, for sure.
And just looking at the descriptions, so I think this is one of those cases, and I know MetaJungle has those collection descriptions and the image description. So the image description itself is really strong. Maybe put a few more details about exactly what the image itself is covering. Like for
Yeah.
instance, I've got the bisons in the snow open, and so that description goes back to the collection description. It's not specific to this image.
Right.
There's also no addition information, so I would add that. The artist, a brief bio, so that as these things travel across the blockchain, the artist bio is attached, and then obviously the licensing. Because that's not here either.
Well, and I'll say this, one of the things we chatted about this when we were going through picking these, is that we have kind of said, and I'll just say this for anybody who's listening, we've said that submissions, we are really wanting submissions to have all of the description information complete. And the reason why we include them occasionally that don't have it is so we can say, hey, you're missing some information here. In this case, each piece just has the main, you need to put an individual description on each piece. It needs to tell that it is a one of one, if it is, which it probably should be if it's part of a collection. It also needs to tell you what license it carries. It also probably it needs to have the artist's name and information, so we kind of know who created it. Because the way it sits right now, this blue, this is just telling us who created the NFT. It's not telling us who the photographer is. It also isn't the photographer's name. It's just your username on OpenSea. So, or on blockchain. So, yeah, you need to include all that information, and you really should have individual descriptions of each photo.
Yeah, and I literally have these saved on my phone, so I'm putting these up. And my apologies to the MetaJungle family. I grabbed these a while back, so if there is updated information, because I know this was really before we started talking about licensing, so maybe there's a third. These are the description suggestions and the collection suggestions of the key information to include. If we've got another one of these, it's licensing. I know that's become a kind of a hot topic. I don't have that one, but I think that would be another piece to share.
Yeah, well, and I posted last week when Sarah and I were talking. I posted the verbiage from directly from Sloika with how their licensing language works. So that's if you scroll up, if you scroll back in the live chat, it's up there a little further. So I don't know. I'll just say this: if Metagirl and Goon, if you maybe want to put together and pin something, we're happy to keep sharing it and keep referencing it if you've got something about licensing or if there's an updated version of
these two. Yeah, I mean, I still have them saved on my phone, but I'll be happy to replace if we've made any updates. But I frequently share these with beginners to the NFT space because not to say that you have to do everything on this. I certainly find it as a checklist as I'm building my collections to look and make sure all of this information is in both places. And I mean, it's just a really handy at my fingertips tool. Yeah.
Well, I think one of the things that Metagirl just said, she's going to get one updated and include the license agreement. So I'm going to throw this out a little bit just because I want Metagirl. I would, if you don't mind, maybe including this, and if you guys agree, I really think that artists need to start putting more stuff in the properties when they mint, when they create work. It
Yeah,
doesn't
I
mean you
hadn't really considered that, but when I see the example we just pulled up, that's a really, I need to go back and look at my properties on OpenSea for sure.
well, and here's I'm going to get into it a little bit later, but one of the things that is kind of important is to understand when you create an NFT, it is, everybody, almost all photographers understand what metadata is. Metadata is all of the like, your shutter speed and your ISO and all of the information about what camera took it. Um, some cameras even have GPS data. All of that stuff travels with the file of the image. Well, when you mint an NFT, it creates a metadata file, and the metadata file contains information about when it was minted, the platform, the contract, how it was made. If you put stuff in the description, like, yeah, that's going to travel with it, and that's cool, but that is information that can't necessarily be parsed by software as as readily. I mean, I'm probably wrong there. You probably could parse it, but if you put something in the properties, then when it gets onto a marketplace, that marketplace can look at the properties and display them as properties that belong to that image. They don't have to go and try to search through your text to see, does it say Canon 1DX in here? They don't do that. It's just camera body, Canon 1DX. If you put it in the properties, it is part of the metadata. And so I think it really makes a lot of sense for you as an artist to seriously consider adding your artist name as a property, to seriously consider adding your license, your choice of license in the properties, to seriously consider adding at least some basic location data if location is important. I'll give you a couple of examples. Mine has time of day, location. I always put elements because my stuff's all landscape based, so water, fire, air, these kinds of earth. I put these in there because it makes it easier to search for them later on if you want to, but it also helps. They act as tags that people can search and look through. So we're going to show you when we get into, we have one Sloika collection that we're going to review today. Sloika uses those properties, and it's how they populate everything. It's where all the information goes. They don't put it in the description, they put it in the properties. Yeah. And Mike just chimed in. If you guys you guys know my partner here from hosting these AMAs, Mike says properties is the future. They are right. So please hear us say this. Start putting stuff in the properties. Okay, off the soapbox. Jason, you have any other feedback for this Yellowstone collection?
No, although I just realized that somehow the bisons in the wild was just below my frame. So there are 8 wildlife shots here that I think work well. So to me, it's just removing those 2 landscapes. Those have a place someplace else, and the one with the big bus, and then yeah, the descriptions. Again, this is another one. Pricing's really aggressive. I think that if I recall correctly, that was one of his questions. Pricing is always a challenge, but I do know wildlife is out there selling.
Yeah.
I've sold a few of my Monk Seal Mondays at 0.33. Alpha's
Yeah.
bought a couple at 0.2. So I do think, as long as you're in that point 0.05 to 0.33 range, I don't think the pricing is what determines what sells. And I do think wildlife is selling. That's the other question I recall. It's just a question of marketing. And once you get all those properties and descriptions in place, I think there's really a good opportunity to then get out and showcase the work, because it really, there are some great images in here.
Yeah. What's your what if you were going to give some advice to, we're talking obviously to wildlife photographers here. What would be your advice for marketing this kind of work? Like, in the
Really,
past, we've talked a little bit about connecting with groups like the Wildlife Collective and looking at what other artists are doing. But what do you think? What do you
I
have
think
more
I think the
experience?
Wildlife Collective is that would have been one of the first things I said. They do have their own Discord. It's not as active as MetaJungle. We're still kind of working on that. They've done some charitable events so there's a little more activity there. That really, what that collective allows you to do is connect with other wildlife photographers, and you do kind of get an opportunity to see what they're doing, what is working well, and I think that's easy enough to do with Twitter, to kind of see who's out there doing wildlife and make those connections with those people. The other
Right.
thing I think you can see, is as people are selling wildlife, you can start to see which collectors are out there buying it, and you can see what kind of images they're resonating with, and so then you can kind of build some relationships there as well by looking at who is collecting wildlife and connecting with them too.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I think a lot of times as photographers, we're so excited to connect with other people that are doing really good work, and we're excited to share that work. But we have to remember that, yes, photographers collect from each other, but really we have to make sure we're making those connections with collectors as well.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Well, great. Okay, so let's move on to the next collection. This one is sometimes the bear eats you, and this is by Blue Jay Way. And let's just kind of dig in here a little bit. I love this in the description. Sometimes you eat the bear, sometimes, well, the bear eats you, the Big Lebowski. Also, most crypto investors. This is a collection of one-of-one NFTs of coastal brown bears from pristine Katmai National Park, Alaska, by BlueJWay.eth. It takes 3 hours by float plane to get to Katmai from Anchorage. I was in awe of this special place and these gorgeous creatures. The shots weave together and show how connected they are to us and to the salmon runs. They're eating well together as a community. There's little friction, just like early NFT investors. These bears changed the path of my life and helped me reorient it towards photography, art, and NFTs. I'm heeding the call. These are the top 21 from over 1,500 photos taken for this collection. Buyers will get educational and video content and special access to future drops. Collect 3 or more for a special surprise. Thank you. Proceeds from the first sale of Beat Eats You number 7 will go
Yep, that's
to,
going to be corrected.
little typo there, will go to alaskawildlife.org, and number 21 to Katmai National Park. I'd kind of like to let you kind of dive in on this one, Jason. We talked about this pretty extensively, but I'd love to know what you think.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm a big fan of Blue Jay Way's work. We love the bears. I mean, these are beautiful shots, and so I think what's interesting is, obviously, this is on my bucket list. I want to go chasing the salmon runs and the bears, and so I think there are some fantastic images in this collection. And again, we've talked about this a little bit, but the wide frames sometimes work. So for instance, 21, that bear eats you, I think that is an important piece to this collection because it shows all the bears, along the river, taking up their place to catch the salmon. So I think the challenge for me when we were looking at this yesterday, the day before, is a couple of these images are very similar. So for me, you've got the 12 has sold already, with them right at the edge. You've got 18, which is sold already. Those two are pretty similar. But then you've got 3, 1, and 19. And those 5 images are all so similar, that perch up at the top of the falls. And it's one of those, I mean, that's what everybody's looking for is the bear catching the salmon. 19, I think, really has that one nailed down, with the bear catching the salmon as it climbs the falls. But to me, I thought that those images were a little too similar to include them all.
Right.
You've even got number 9 kind of right up there at that point too. I think 2 is a fantastic shot, close up with the bear's got the salmon in his face or in his teeth. The portraits are all unique enough to me that they stand alone. 13 and 4, the bears wrestling. Those are great. So to me, it was just that one group of 5 that were a little too similar.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I tend to agree. Ultimately, I think this is when we talked about this. Yeah, there are a few. This is it's a super iconic view, and it's cool, and I get it. But I feel like you're right. You kind of they're just too similar, and I think picking like this one to me is not like number 3. It just isn't very strong. It's not. It doesn't work as well as these other ones.
Yeah.
Ultimately,
when
it's
you get
one.
19 about to chomp down on the fish, that's even number 1. You do get a little bit of value out of number 1 because you get the second bear, which looks to be a younger bear watching the process.
Yeah.
So maybe there's some value to that pair, but 3 to me was just too similar to the others.
Yeah. How about this one?
Yeah, I mean the portraits, the detail on these shots is really spectacular.
I gotta zoom in on this one. That's cool. Yeah, I mean that's great. So overall, let's talk a little about the overall size. So 21 images. As much as I think this is maybe a, like you said, maybe an important part of the story, to me it just doesn't work. I think, and this is it's odd to critique somebody else's work, but I think maybe a tighter frame of the bear with the fisherman in the background blurry might have worked better. Something like that. But I feel like it's just out of place. I don't know that I would. I don't like this one in here. And not, not to be.
I can see that. I mean, I was thinking the wide angle. There is a story there, but yeah, with the fisherman in the background, that's an interesting. I can see the challenge with it too.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is the collection is 21 items, but there are 22 here. And I think when we went and looked at this, one of these is an airdrop, which I think is part of the.
Oh yeah.
I think that's part of the surprise to the collection, since there are several of these that have already been collected.
Yeah, number 3 was airdropped. It looked like, or was bought off chain, right? Or off marketplace. I don't know we don't know
right. It went to the charity auction. That's where it went.
Yeah. Which is fine, right? Yeah. So kind of my gut is, I think, like we said, there's a few too many that look too similar. But then you get some of these are super cool. Like look at this, all the water dripping off his chin.
Yeah.
That's cool. And I think some of the strongest images, to my mind, I really, really like this one here.
Yeah.
And once again, it's because we're super close. We can see all this detail. Family dinner, that's the title of this one. It's great. Look at those claws.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, and even wisdom and grace, right? That one's tightened in, and the bear's kind of out of the frame.
Right.
But the detail that it's captured there is really strong.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so let's just look real quick at what feedback we were looking for. I gotta find it. Hang on. Long tab. Where are you hiding? Sorry, I've been messing around here, and I got my.
Yeah, no, so I'm just looking closer at the descriptions, and so I think the order could be kind of adjusted. The description, a lot of the information, I would keep the title at the top, but I'd maybe shift the collection, artist edition, and artist location and artist bio below the description.
Sure.
There's just not like you have to get all the way down. I'm looking at Bear Force 1. You have to get all the way down to the last paragraph there before you get to the this is one of the larger male bears. So that, to me, that's the piece that you would put at the top of these descriptions. So I might reorganize the description and put that up at the top. Title stays there, the numbers there, and then description underneath that, and then shift everything else down from there.
I'm also curious, what are our properties? Haiku. Now I have to look at all the properties for the whole collection. Haiku.
Well, he's called 747, and effectively that makes sense for the title, which of course I had missed earlier. I definitely like Fat Bear Week. That's a fun game that they come out with up here.
Yeah, I think if I were, let me just kind of look through here. I think my feedback is that I think the collection's a little too big overall. And I think that we already have kind of figured out an easy way to get rid of a few, not get rid of, that's a terrible way to say it, a way to tighten up the collection a little bit. Yep. The questions is that I have recently revamped my collection and improved descriptions, including licensing terms. I've also implemented variable pricing. I appreciate feedback on whether the collection's descriptions now adequately convey the purpose and theme of the collection. Here's my thoughts on that. We've kind of walked through, I think the descriptions on the individual pieces, just change the order, make sure that the actual description of the photos maybe towards the top, put all the licensing stuff at the bottom. And then the other question is that this collection was launched 6 months ago and there's only been 3 sales. I've revamped, streamlined, and improved it, looking for feedback on how to relaunch the improved version and still new energy in this collection. I think if I were, the work is strong. I think that this idea of tightening up, of getting tighter crops, this advice we've been giving, like some of these tighter crop ones are really powerful. Tightening up a little bit, getting rid of the duplicates, I think those will go a long way to making it a stronger collection. In terms of how to relaunch, I think that as you tighten this all up and you're able to pull it all together and have it be more streamlined, I think that right there allows you to kind of share it with new energy.
So interesting, I didn't notice the properties before, but having skipped through, some of them include a haiku and some of them don't, which is an interesting little wrinkle.
Yeah.
There is literally a haiku in the description on the ones that says it has that property, so that's kind of cool.
Fat Bear Week champion waddles down the river to catch some more salmon.
Yep.
It's clever, and I would maybe even mention that somewhere. Like, I know that it's in there. It's in the properties. It's a rarity
I think that's
thing.
An opportunity when you share it across, whichever social media. Obviously, most of us are working off Twitter, but there's no reason you couldn't do that on Instagram and Facebook. And you literally just lead with the haiku, and you get the image, and then you can link to the piece in the collection from there. That seems to be to me, that's a kind of a unique way to present the piece. Differently than most artists are sharing their work.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I like it. Do you have any other feedback? Anything else you want to share?
No, I think we've pretty well covered.
Okay, good. Well, let's move on to our next artist. So we're moving into the world of foundation. So this is a Magic Hour. And our artist here is Manish Mondian. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. And we've got this really interesting blue and orange, kind of turquoisey blue and orange themed collection. And let's look at the description. Magic Hour is the period of time between sunset and daybreak when warm hues of gold, pink, and blue are visible. The collection features 10 photographs taken during the golden hour in Keoladio, Ghana National Park in Bharatpur, Rajasthan, a wetland wonder and one of the largest bird sanctuaries. As a result, the collection is also an ode to Bharatpur, a place I've visited every year for the past 10 years. Canvas print of image will be provided to each collector, shipping worldwide. So, it says there's 10 photographs. There are currently only 8 photographs part of this collection. So you probably, I think we talked about this a little bit. I don't know how much you can edit the description for the collection. Is that something that's easy to edit in Foundation?
Yeah, so actually, it reminded me that I needed to do that for my postcards from Hawaii. So I did that this morning, and I went in and made the update. So you can edit on Foundation's collections. You can edit the header image. You can edit the uh, collection logo. So the cover image, the collection logo, and the description can all be edited. Um, and so, and again, you can also add to the collection. So to me, the fact that he's noted that there's 10 and he's only minted 8, of course, with the way Foundation works, you have to pay for everything up front. This is kind of a trickle out collection, and I think that makes sense. It's something that the Foundation collections allow you to do. I mean, there's really nothing that prevents him from minting 20. Um, and it's interesting because the description could always be changed. So then it's on the artist to stick to the commitment that there's only going to be 10 images in this collection.
Right. No, makes sense to me. Okay, well let's take a look at the actual collection here. So I just clicked on the first one here, Tree of Life, and let's just take a look and see. So here's our description. Walks you through what you're looking at. Edition 1 of 1, file type PNG, image resolution. So this was created back in January. So this was minted back before we were really talking about licensing information, and this stuff is all set. You're not altering any of this stuff, and so we know that. I guess I wanted to say there is some level at which the cost of killing these and reminting them and fixing them is probably a little too high for most people. That being said, if you did want to add licensing information, the only way you're adding it is by burning this and reminting it.
And that's the only other wrinkle to this is you can see this is Magic Hour number 8. I'm not sure because I haven't burned any of mine whether burning it keeps the number, and so then the numbering would be off if you go back in. But to me, I did the same thing. I started my collection last November before a lot of those conversations came up. So I'm certainly doing that going forward, and I think it's important information to include. The other challenge you have with Foundation is a character limit. So there's really only so much you can include. So to me, what I would do to fix this, and actually I'm going to have to go do this on my own collection, I would go in and add the licensing in the collection description if you can get enough characters to squeeze that in.
Right. Makes sense to me. Okay, I'm gonna mention something, and I hope this doesn't just make our artists cringe because these are all minted already. But I'm noticing almost every one of these images has sensor dust on it. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah, I was just trying to take a closer look. Where did it go? Click something off. Let me get back to it. There it is. Why is it doing that?
Not on this one, or maybe a little bit, but not noticeable. The first one was the one where it was most noticeable. Here's the thing. I'm saying this as an artist because I would want somebody to tell me. These are minted, and I hate to put you in the position of having to go, oh no, what do I do now?
Yeah. But it's right under the bird.
Yeah, realistically, this is just indicating to me that you're probably stopped down a little bit on your lens, and there's dust on your sensor, and that's what causes these little spots, a little piece of fuzz or something like that. These are actually pretty easy to fix in post. So even if you get stuff on your lens or on your sensor, you can clean these up before as part of your editing process. They're pretty easy to clone out. But these are already minted, which means you would have to burn the piece to replace the image. And I So I say, like, I'm cringing a little bit even telling you, because now now you know about it, but there's not much you can do about it without burning the collection or the pieces.
Yeah,
But
you're
I
right.
would want you to tell me. I'd
I
want
mean,
to know.
it's yeah, and you're right. I pop them open, and you do see it on most of the images in this collection. Um, a lot of the other ones, they're just sort of along the top edge, so it's not as distracting.
Yeah.
It's certainly something I'd want to clean up. Um,
Yeah.
but definitely on that Tree of Life image where the dust spot is just right below the bird, that one's tough.
Yeah. So that is pretty rough, and I'm sorry, Manish. I'm sorry. I hate to be the one to say that. I just want you to be aware of it. So in terms of he had asked some questions. Are the images cohesive for the theme of the collection and in line with the description of the theme? Yeah, I think they are super cohesive in terms of it has this blue hour golden vibe. It's interesting that you didn't stick with just the one color, and I think it's actually more interesting because it's the two different
I
colors.
agree that the balance of how this displays on the page, the silhouettes are really a nice, but the balance back and forth between the gold and the blue is really cool.
Yeah, exactly. He'd also asked about that he was planning to revise pricing. What pricing strategy should I apply given the recent changes in Foundation? So I'll kind of say this. So Foundation just changed the percentage that they take when you sell on their platform, uh, which is significant. And gas has been a little cheaper lately, so it's a little bit less expensive to mint. But I think you shouldn't let, like, you need to build in the costs of making the work and putting it on the platform. You need to build that into your pricing from the get-go, and realize that if you drop your prices, you may be cutting into what it costs you to mint them. So for instance, I have pieces I put on Foundation back in December that it cost me $200 to mint them. So if I'm selling them for less than, I don't know, 0.2, I'm not even covering I'm barely covering what it cost me to make it, and I'm barely covering um, the cost of what Foundation's going to take when they take their cut. So I think you need to kind of consider that stuff. I don't know. What do you think
Me,
about
I don't budge on my pricing.
that?
I said it when I said it, and I will work with some other work. But for me, my pricing is set based on where I value those images. So I get it if it's been there for a few months, and I think now is a really tough window for all of us. There isn't a lot of volume in NFT sales right now, so it can sort of feel like all you see is everybody else is selling and you're not. And the reality is you're only seeing the ones that are selling, and the vast majority of us have had a slow March. So for me, it's about what it costs to put these pieces together back in January, and making sure that you're covering those and coming out ahead.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so these have been they were created 69 days ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So, that's
So
kind of
that's an
my.
interesting. So I will say that's an interesting question back to Manish, because, like you said, the description shows that there's supposed to be 10. There's only 8, and now when I look at, I don't mind the drip out approach. But when I look at the mint dates, they're all the 21st or 22nd. So where are the other 2 images?
Exactly. That's the questions, right? That's what we're kind of trying to get at. I think it's just good to, like, think about what is the consistency and what is the message you're giving and what is the consistency with how you're doing things. Right.
Yep.
Okay. We ready to move on?
Sure.
All right. Okay. Next one, I ended up putting these two side by side. No, actually, never mind. I'll reorder these a little bit. Faces of the
Reorder,
Wild.
yeah.
Faces of Wild. Okay, so another foundation collection. This one is our friend Brijesh Makadia. And let's just take a look and see what we've got here. The description of these Faces of Wild, a collection of portraits of Asiatic lions. This collection includes an Asiatic lion, lioness, and cubs. Asiatic lions have their only natural habitat in the dry, deciduous forest of Sasan Gir. It is rich in flora and fauna, but widely popular for Asiatic lions. All these were clicked in Gir Sanctuary during winter evenings. After 2 years of patience and frequent visits to Gir Jungle, I got these portraits in golden lights and strong eye contact. Eyes are windows to soul, right? So we've got, this is almost like kind of a family, right? It has a family vibe. We got the big male here with the mane. Come on, there we go. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit here if I can. No, it's being difficult. Can't zoom in. So we've got that guy. Super detailed. Looks like he's ready to say something.
Yep.
And it's called the King. We've got a very great, really nice lengthy description here. Long live the king. Meet Devraj in Hindi, meaning king of gods. He's a handsome Asiatic lion from the land. So a lot of the same kind of stuff here. Artist name, edition, and license. Look at that. So this is all great. Same kind of, we got all the information here on our queen as well.
Oh man, so yeah, looking at the queen though, this is where you run into that challenge with foundation. I think he ran out of characters and may not have realized it because it cuts off the word distribution right at the end.
Yep.
And that's yeah, I definitely saw that when I was working with it. So there's half a line missing there.
Yeah. And the babies.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, so I like this. Isn't it perfect for wallpaper?
Yeah.
Okay, so just kind of looking at our, the questions here about these. I think I'm gonna look at the questions he had asked.
While you're pulling that up, I'm just going to say it's one of those things we noticed when we pulled this collection up. The floor shows as 0.2, and when you kind of skim the buy now is 20.25, 0.22, 0.22. So I had to look closer to see why the floor was 0.2, and so the reserve on these is 0.2, but the buy now is just 0.22. And I think we're all kind of learning where we're going to go with the reserve option versus the buy now option.
Right.
And the Cubs have no reserve; it's just a straight buy now. To me, if I'm a collector, there is no way I'm starting an auction at 0.2 if I can simply buy it for 0.22. I mean, 0.02 is not enough of an incentive for me to kick off an auction and see if somebody else outbids me.
Right.
So I think there's got to be a bigger range between reserve, maybe 0.15, and the buy now at 0.2 or 0.25. But I would say minimum 0.05 difference and probably more like 0.1.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, you have to kind of think about like what's happening with your collector, right? How are they thinking about it? How do they see that?
I mean, I suppose if you had a collector out there that that wanted to start the auction and give somebody else a chance to win it, but I don't think there's very many collectors out there that are going to start an auction without the intent to buy the piece.
Right. Okay, so a couple little thoughts here. Is it just me, or are we noticing that the header image here is not in the collection?
Right.
So
that's the other. When you go back to the description on this collection, there's no set, and this is one of the wrinkles I mentioned earlier about a foundation collection. there's nothing that prevents him from continuing to add to this group.
Right.
But I did the same thing. So when I started my collection, I used two of my favorite images that I knew were eventually going to be in the collection. And I thought I needed to do that because I didn't realize I could go back in and edit it. But since you can go in and edit the logo and the cover photo, I would definitely start with a cover photo that is, I mean, I'd probably would go with the Cubs, just my perspective. Um, if this image is added to the collection later, you can always update the collection to include, or update the cover image at that point. But I would almost go into the description because it does say it's going to be a collection of portraits and set what the limit on that collection is going to be.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's 3, then we definitely need to change the cover image because it's not part of the collection.
Right.
But if it's 10 and there's a roadmap for other images, we need to know that too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I like it. So in terms of questions, kindly give suggestions on my collection of portraits in regards to images and descriptions. I think our descriptions are really good. Obviously, your licensing information got clipped a little bit. And then he also asked, does the platform of choice Foundation matter in regard to collection and its sales? I read and heard in space that Foundation is not a good choice, so kindly advise. I think that there is work selling on Foundation every day. There are collections selling, there are individual pieces selling. The decision about where, some collectors don't buy on Foundation, and it's because they don't like the auctioning and the settling and all of the different kind of mechanics of it. I've heard that from a couple different collectors. I've also heard other collectors that say I won't buy lazy minted stuff on OpenSea because I don't like the ERC 1155 contract. There's also people who won't even look at Rarible, and there's people who think that Sloika is interesting, but they're not interested in collections. They only want single pieces. So I think you just have to realize that when you decide on a platform, you decide on a marketplace, that you're binding yourself a little bit to what the mechanics of how that platform works and the kind of buyer that might be willing to purchase art there. I will tell you right off the bat, when I look at Foundation, I prefer the look of Foundation and how they present the art over OpenSea every time. That being said, there's so much platform lock-in to the way Foundation does things. So when you sell art on here, it doesn't show up right other places sometimes. You can't move it to other platforms because you don't control the contract, and it can be a little more costly to mint on Foundation. I don't know. What do you think, Jason?
I mean, it can be, although what I've found lately with the gas kind of all over the place is if you catch the right window. I mean, like you, my first piece on Foundation, I minted at 119. I listed for 125, so it took me $250 to get it up on the site. But some of the stuff I've minted in the last month, yeah, I guess I put that KA Tower up in early February. That one was like 0.2. No, sorry, not 0.2. Like $20, $25 to mint, and then 25, 30 to list. I think being patient can sometimes help keep the cost down on Foundation. But yeah, and you and I have had this conversation before, but at this point, I'm looking at wanting the opportunity to move my stuff as platform agnostic, so to speak. So that's where the custom contracts, I think, are really much like I think properties are. Mike said properties are the future. I think the custom contracts are too. The Foundation is looking at allowing custom contracts on their platform. I really love the display and the interface that they have. OpenSea, some collectors prefer to buy there. If Sloika allows you to do custom contracts, then you can you've minted the work and you can put it where the collectors are looking for it.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. And when you're saying this, there have been some rumors from some inside people that have connections that say it is likely that Foundation is going to start supporting the Manifold contract. And I think Ev has hinted that they're going to try to support it on Sloika as well.
Right. And again,
And
I mean, this is just what's there today, right? Right now we've got OpenSea and Looks Rare, which I believe the Manifold contract can be shown on both of those.
Yeah.
And to me, I think new platforms that come in are going to have to allow those custom contracts because I think it makes a lot of sense for artists.
Well, it also makes a lot of sense because it takes all of the back end work off of Foundation. If they don't have to worry about the minting process and you could just mint it somewhere else, then all they do is take their cut when you sell on their platform.
Right.
Yeah. So hopefully we get there, and I think we are progressing towards a world where the artist has more control of the art, where the artist is able to make all the decisions up front. One of the things that's a little interesting though is that all of our advice, we've been growing as we do this stuff. We've been growing how we think about this. So when we first started doing our AMAs, I wasn't involved in the first couple, but when Mike started launching these and getting going, I mean, we were pretty much just talking about you could make changes to almost anything that hadn't been bought because it was all lazy minted on OpenSea. But we are now at a point where, I have 5 pieces minted on my Manifold contract, and it costs money to change anything about them because they're minted ERC 720s. So the goal, I think, for almost any artist is to have control and build, you want to have control of what you're making and have the ability to have it be portable and move around and do things with it. I think that right now, minting on Foundation as part of with a contract that's part of what they do, like you're kind of locked in with what they want you to do. You use Foundation the way Foundation is intended to be used. You can't really, it's not selling on Foundation, I'll just move it to OpenSea. You can't do that.
Right.
And vice versa. You can't just move your OpenSea stuff over to Foundation, or because it's not minted. But even if it were on a Manifold, you can't move it. So that's a really long answer to your question, right? But I think Foundation can be good. You just have to consider what baggage and or advantages come along with it.
Again, I've sold about half of my work on Foundation, about half on OpenSea. So I enjoy working with the Foundation platform, even with the limitations. So I think there's a place for it, but I do think artists having more control is the best option for all of us as artists. So I'm hoping to see a lot of progress on that this year.
Yeah. Well, why don't we move on to the next one? So this one is, it's called Pearl Mullet's Journey. And I'll just read the description because it helps to kind of know what you're looking at. I tried to explain the breeding journey of the pearl mullet, whose species name is Alburnus tarichi, with my photographs. Pearl mullet is an endemic species that can live in the Salina soda waters of Lake Van. It only lives in Lake Van Basin in the world. Since the Salina soda water of the lake does not allow them to reproduce, they migrate to streams by forming large flocks in the spring. They struggle to cross rivers. During my stay in the region for 3 years, I had observed the Great Migration at different points and had tried to photograph interesting moments of the struggle. So, let's dig in here. I think we're talking about a fish here, right?
Yep. I was
Okay.
just going to ask where the location is, but now I see Van, Turkey. So Lake Van is in Turkey.
Oh, cool. So let's just take a look through these. Actually, you know what I'm gonna do? Hang on. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna organize these. Okay. So, man, there's a lot of pictures of these things getting eaten, isn't there?
Well, I mean, to be fair, I think that is part of the story, right? And I mean,
Yeah.
we saw it from the other side with sometimes the bear eats you. But yeah, it definitely is part of the story.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go ahead and start with we'll start at the top and we'll start looking through here. Okay. So if we look at the description, we've got a little basic description. Become the prey of many seagulls. And we've got artist, we've got collection, edition, image size, resolution, location, date, and license. So we've got all of our information there in the description. I'm going to click on the image here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit.
Yeah, that's impressive detail.
Yeah. I also really think that the color and the way that the highlight and shadow balance is works really well here.
Yes.
I think I will say this is, I don't know if this is a popular opinion, but I find that there are a lot of wildlife photographers that they're concerned about the shot, but they don't really think that much about I know maybe they're trying to stick too close to reality. They don't really do a lot of editing. I see that a lot, and I think it's because people are trying to have a more real. They're trying to be more realists about the way they process. But I think it's really cool when you see stuff that has really beautiful color.
I resemble that remark, but you can get really beautiful color in the camera.
No, I totally agree. I just find that there's a lot of people who they stick a super long lens on, they take pictures of animals, and it just looks really flat, like they didn't really process that much.
Yeah, so going back to your point about all of them being eaten, I think the snake shot is spectacular. I know.
Really?
I think these are interesting when you look at them from this perspective. The first one you started with there to look at, I think that one's a very cool shot. There's the scoop shot. There's fight, which is the birds fighting over the fish that's already been caught. I think those all work pretty well. To me, the seagulls hunt, though, that image is a little weaker than the others. It's the focus is kind of going away. The water droplets are beautiful. I mean, it's a beautiful image, but for me, it doesn't necessarily fit with the rest of the collection. There's already several stronger seagull shots in here, so that's the one that I would sort of think I might revisit including that.
But what if you cropped it like this?
Yeah, I mean that definitely. I might shift a little out from there to get some of the water drops you crop. But yeah, you're right. If it is a tighter crop, and then of course the other one is the double hunt. That's another one that might benefit. Oh wow! Well, I can see why they included it. It's got two fish in the mouth, but I had to zoom in to see that.
Yeah.
So that's not something that's going to be apparent from the thumbnail the way it's built at the moment. So that's another one that could be benefited by a tighter crop.
See, part of my gut on some of these is that I think there are, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 images that are of the seagulls catching them.
Right. Yeah.
And kind of what I would probably do is I would lean in and say, like, I probably wouldn't include this one. I think the weight feels weird, and you've clipped the end of the wing off here. So that would be one. For some reason, it doesn't feel quite as strong. Fight is interesting, but I think maybe, look at this. It's a snake and a seagull fighting over a fish.
Yeah, I like that one. I know at first, again, it's a tough one to see from the thumbnail.
Right.
But it's not just the two. There's another seagull behind coming in to join. But yeah, it's a fight over the fish. And so that one I think has some weight to it.
Right. Yeah. These are the kind of things where I look at it and I think, I want cropped in. I want more. I want to be able to see what I'm looking at here. I can't see it from out here.
Right. The thumbnail. Yeah.
And that might be partly OpenSea's fault because the thumbnails are all too small. We haven't even.
It's a tough. I guess. So for me, I know one of the things when you try and crop a wildlife shot, you try to keep the aspect ratio pretty consistent.
Yeah.
So for me, you're pulling in from that bottom right corner, and you eliminate some of the rocks across the bottom and the right corner. And if you tighten that up a little bit, I think you can get there.
Yeah. I think, and this is maybe something to think about. If you're going to be putting a collection together on OpenSea, you need to remember that the thumbnails are going to be rinky-dink, right? They're tiny. Let me look at a couple here, other ones here. Look at this. That's kind of a really interesting photo. And I like the balance of
and the description goes to explain what you're looking at, and that's the idea that they're so packed in. Yeah.
Wow.
I guess that's so. On the one hand, you've got the 6 seagulls, but on the other hand, you really only have 3 that are tightly focused on their journey. You've got the two different jump shots, and I think those are both cool. So I think it's 3, the triple jump. I think those are different enough that both of them can be included. And then you get the one with it swimming over the rest of the school. I guess one of the big challenges is you almost need an underwater shot, which of course is an equipment limitation, I would guess.
I think it could be easily doable though. Like pretty much almost all of our cell phones are water resistant at this point. You could just stick that under the water.
A GoPro.
Yeah.
But I do think an underwater shot would be an interesting look at. And again, I would think you could probably get away with putting it in near where they're masked, too.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So questions. I think we've kind of talked about it a little bit. Like I think we maybe have a few too many of the seagulls catching them. I like the snake one is really cool.
Yeah, both snake ones. The snake and the seagull, and the snake by itself.
Oh yeah, this one's cool. It just needs a different crop.
Yeah.
I think if I were going to think about if you look at the individual descriptions, he'd asked, "How did you find the stories of my photos?" And I think that the descriptions are really good. You've got some great information here. Ultimately, it's a photographic medium, and so you have to kind of think about this. If you show somebody a cool image, you get their attention, and they might read the description. If you don't have an image that grabs their attention, they're probably not going to click through and read it. So you can't just rely on having a really awesome description of what's happening. You need the image you need to be able to have it be kind of obvious what's happening. And that's why this image here, fight, needs to be cropped in super tight. And this is one of those ones where I think, especially with wildlife, oftentimes, like I said, you're already shooting at a long focal length. And so cropping in, you lose resolution. That is all fixable in Photoshop. There are resizing tools, so you can get these at larger sizes and still have them be sharp. So it might mean you have to play with it a little bit, but I think that it's reasonable to think that like this could be a much stronger image, kind of tighten like this. And then maybe the other thing with this image is I'd pull back the highlights a little bit as well. You're blowing out a little bit here. And maybe bring the shadows up a little. But yeah, any other thoughts about how you could improve this one?
No, I think that's it. I think removing 1 or 2 of the seagulls, and maybe I think it's tough to do a fish journey without some underwater shots. So if there's any way to add some underwater shots to this collection, I think that'd be a valuable piece.
Yeah. Well, and I'll say the same thing I said earlier. I think it really does make a lot of sense to think about cropping in and getting rid of dead space, and also realize that while sometimes it's important to have environmental context, sometimes it's not. Sometimes the subject is way more important than the environmental context, and it can make for a really powerful shot that's emotional. Shall we move on?
Sure.
All right.
So one more, we got a little less than 10 minutes.
This is our last one. Yeah. So Motherhood, the Boon of Nature. And this is Tapan Sheth. The Motherhood, this series is a result of almost 9 years of photography, endless efforts for one single perfect moment. The series is dedicated to Asiatic lions, which are only around 700 in the wild and seen in the wild in Sasan Gir, India. So same place as the other lion collection. Just for sake of time, I kind of want to. This looks good. I think we've got some basic good descriptions here. Let's just kind of click through and look at these. And I'll just say this because I've said it before. On Sloika, we don't really need to worry too much about the details. The reason why is because Sloika, you have to include them as part of their minting process. So we're going to have the rights, subject dimensions, file type, edition, and other stuff that's been added. And these are properties. That's how they're populated. So it looks a little different from OpenSea, but here's your properties. And then you've got your license information here. And this one's already collected by Hendro, and Hendro is, I think, I don't know if he's in here, but he's somebody that I'm familiar with for sure. Oh, look at this. This is great.
Yeah, these images. I mean, again, this is a good place to end because, like you said, so much of the information is already included in Sloika, and Sloika is pretty well tied up. There's not a whole lot you can do. So it's not like you can go back in and edit the images or edit the descriptions. But thankfully, we don't need to. I mean,
right. Oh, look at that little eye.
Yeah, and I missed that the first time through. I just saw that when I went back through, and then so the protector's another one where you've got the cub right at the edge of the water, and the mother's face reflected in the water. That is awesome.
Yeah, it really is great. Look at the detail. Look at the water drops on the whiskers here.
Yeah.
I think this is
the stretch with the cub underneath. I mean, these are just beautifully done.
Yeah. I think one of the things that this is a great example of images where we are the crops, the composition is really spot on in this collection. This one, while it seems like they're kind of small in the frame, like this really does frame well.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to understand the difference. You could easily think this is dead space, but it really, there's something about the shape,
this light, the branches, it really adds to the overall image.
And look at how the tree kind of leads right into this spot right here, right?
Yep.
Something about that really works. There's like these leading lines here. And if you look through, these are all they're great. There's no extra weird space in any of these. These are cropped in so you get exactly the detail you need to see, and they feel super intimate.
Goon says it reminds him of Lion King. It's a beautiful motherhood portrait with the mothers and cubs. And again, you talk about cohesiveness of the collection. They all go together. It's really well done.
Yeah. Okay. So
what were the questions?
Yeah. So
how do I sell them all?
Tapan says, "What will be the good pricing structure? Keeping same for all. Is it advisable to set kind of higher price for some particular photos?" I'm just going to go back and look at the overall.
I'm looking, they're all currently 0.15 with the exception of the tenderest moments, and that one's already been collected. So at the moment they're all consistent, and of course, I kind of do a little different with that. I have some images in a collection that I think took a little extra effort, and so for me, I often have those bumped up just a little bit. But if you're going to vary pricing, you have to have a good justification for why this piece is more than that one.
Yeah. And I tend to think that when you're making a collection, they're a collection, they should all be the same price. That's kind of my take on it. Different perspective. Yeah. If there's any, I'd like to know more about description. No, honestly, here's what I'm thinking. This is a really great collection. It's super cohesive. It's really beautiful imagery. You're all of the things that we have kind of been a little nitpicky about, and all the advice we've given, you're kind of doing all the right stuff here. They all have
Right.
great descriptions. You really are. You really have great compositional skill and technique. These are fantastic.
Yep.
In terms of how do you get this to move? You get onto Twitter, you engage with wildlife photographers, the Wildlife Collective, look around there, see who's doing what. And I think realistically, this is maybe the biggest piece of advice I would give is that share these pieces individually with the stories. Share one a day on the social media, and tell the story. Put a link in there. Tell a story. Share one photo at a time, and I think you'll start to find that people will find it and they'll engage with the story.
Yeah, I mean, I clicked through to look at the Twitter profile for Tappan, and it's a good 1,300 followers. It's an account that's been around since September of 13. So looking at the way these things are presented there, the images are there. I would add the stories. I think that's what will help call more attention is literally telling the stories, whether that's a series of threads or but rather than just the title and expecting somebody to click through to read the descriptions, I'd get the descriptions right there into the tweets.
Yeah, well, and just looking through the thread here, and maybe it's in there somewhere further back, but what I'm not seeing is you sharing your individual pieces with stories, and it might exist somewhere in here. I'm just not seeing it, but I see
I'm on
that
the media tab, and it looks more like title and link, and that's fine. Although honestly, I mean, I think sometimes it's better not to show link, but literally the description, and then put the link as a comment, because Twitter's algorithm sometimes challenging when you have the link right there.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think, but sharing them individually, sharing individual pieces, not just as replies to other people, but make a point of making a post for yourself. Like, hey, this is if you want to use GM, good morning, you can do that, but say, hey, I wanted to share one of the pieces from my Sloika collection about these really cool lions. So with that, we have hit noon. I know that the other event is starting as we speak, the other space. So wanted to say thank you to all of our artists for submitting. Please submit your work for this genre, but other genres as well. And we're going to be continuing to roll out new genres of AMA feedback sessions. Jason, do you have anything else you want to say?
Oh, I think it's great to see us branching out into different genres, and definitely happy to be part of the wildlife AMAs going forward.
Yeah, this has been fun. I love seeing this kind of work. It prompts me to want to go and do some more shooting. So, thank you so much, everybody, for attending. It looks to me like MetaGirl already bailed, so she could go run that space or be part of that. Goon, I see that you're still in here, so I would just say thank you so much for facilitating and making this all go. Do you have anything else you want to say?
Yeah, just thank you guys. You did an excellent job today, and we also have the POAP code in the AMA live chat. So if you want that, head over to the chat. I'll be deleting the code later today.
And the code is MJAMA401, and it is cap sensitive.
Yeah, so make sure you do the caps.
Hey, can we give a brief description on how that works? Because I kind of had to figure it out. You need the app, don't you?
Yeah, the easiest way to do it is just download the app on your phone from your app store, and then go in there, create an account, and then you'll get to this page, the home page, and you click mint, and then secret word, and then that's where you're going to type in the code and then click mint.
Right, exactly.
So for the brand new host, what app are we downloading?
POAP.
Yeah, POAP. It's it's I forgot the meaning, but it's it gives you an NFT.
It's proof of attendance protocol.
That's right.
No,
That's
right.
what I was
No,
trying to think
I've
of.
gotten POAPs from other places, but I haven't had one that I go out. Okay, so that's the XYZ. Got it. Okay. Cool.
So I put the link in there. You can get the app from there. Once you get the app, you go in there and you say, I want to mint the POAP. And then what it does is when you put the code in, it creates the POAP and then it drops it into your wallet.
Yeah, and we're gonna be doing them. We're gonna try and do them for all the AMAs and hopefully for some of the workshops as well.
Perfect. Good. And I also just wanted to quick say thanks to Mike for hanging out here in the chat with us. It's always good to have him around and chiming in and giving us feedback. That's super helpful. All right. Well, with that, let's wrap things up. Thank you everybody for attending.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Until next time.
Indeed.